All right, welcome everyone to this afternoon's session for National Distance Learning Week with SUNY Online. I'm Erin Maney, I'm the Manager of Communications and Community Engagement at SUNY Online, and I'll be your moderator for this session. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We ask that you keep your mics muted as the session is being recorded. We will have time for Q&A at the end or as we go along, and that you can type questions in the chat. And we'd love for you to introduce yourself. Let us know where you're tuning in from in the chat. That would be great to do. I'm thrilled to introduce to you our speakers today. This is a dynamic team from Empire State College that includes Jennifer Nettleton, Elena Roddick, Mark Lewis, Nichole Jakaub, Michael Panetta, Philomeno Cartwright, and Lindsay Bryde. And I will let them do further introductions just in the interest of time as needed. So we're looking forward to learning from you today and what you've experienced through this conversion process. So thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate that.
All right, thank you. So just a little bit of background information on SUNY Empire State College. We are part of cohort 1. We used conversion thingy 3 to convert our courses from Moodle to Brightspace. We needed a total of 1,685 courses converted for the fall term. Within Empire, we have our own IT service desk, so we don't rely on SUNY Online Help. We also have a master model for online courses, which is essentially a course template that can be readily taught by several instructors, including our adjuncts. And for courses that are faculty-owned, we provided them with resources and assistance of how they can convert their courses from Moodle to Brightspace. Within Empire, we have online courses for the following: the School of Undergraduate Studies, Graduate Studies, Nursing and Allied Health, International Programs, and Harry Van Arsdale. We use Microsoft Teams, and all of our meetings do take place through the Teams. We have channels set up that were specifically created for the LMS conversion. And each committee, which you'll learn more about in detail in a few minutes, has a space on Teams to share documents and to communicate with committee members. Lastly, all training related to the LMS conversion is not required for Empire staff or students. So in regards to this, we use this analogy. We're moving to convey that we are moving from Moodle to Brightspace. Early on, we presented this to our Empire community, and basically the image below provides an idea of the moving process from start to finish. So throughout the entire process, we actually revert back to this analogy to explain various items and updates. We tried to explain it as if we were living in a house. So Moodle was our current house, and then we were looking to move into a new house with upgrades, which was Brightspace, all being closer to our SUNY family and friends. The first part of the process was identifying a timeline, touring homes such as our LMS competitors, and getting access to our resources, which we kind of refer to as Angie List. Once we found that house, which we decided on a modular house, which is Brightspace. And then from here, we had to decide on features such as the discussions, assignments, communication tools, along with other items in our house to properly ensure a successful online learning environment. This was SUNY's job, obviously in consultation with the various campuses. Once it was established, Empire had to identify resources such as Angie's List to learn to become more familiar and comfortable with our new home. The Empire LMS committees were the movers. And then lastly, our house is now Brightspace, which is 2-story, multiple windows, doors, and rooms. We even have some trees and bushes in front of the house. Basically, this all translated into Brightspace and how it offered upgrades such as a robust learning environment, provided a familiar platform for students, faculty, and staff, moving across all campuses located within SUNY neighborhood and closer to our family and friends. Okay, Lindsay? Oh, is Lindsay here?
I wonder she might be running
That's okay.
behind.
So we can cover this. So basically what we're showing here is our timeline. So this actually all began in November of 2021, which was the actual call for committee volunteers. An email was sent out by the DLE communications chair, getting with obviously consultation from the steering committee co-chairs to identify people who would like to serve on these various committees. In January of 2022, the committees actually began once we received that we were part of cohort 1. Then in February of 2022, we actually began meeting with D2L. In April of 2022, we actually received access to our own Brightspace production environment, and we actually started to do course conversions. In July 2022, the course conversions were completed. Preview week. So this is something that our college provides at the beginning of the term, and it's actually the week before. We provide something called preview week, where the students as well as the instructor get access to the course to kind of review materials. This was scheduled for August 31st for students to see their courses, but we kind of ran into a little snafu, which we'll talk to about later. But then in September 6th, that's when our courses began for the fall environment. And then January 17th of 2023 is when our next spring term starts. Is she here yet?
Yep, I think it's Mark now.
Okay.
Oop.
Or Lindsay, go ahead. No.
We're all.
All right, so we're going to talk about project management. So we have a college-wide project management office and support for this project, which was immensely helpful in kind of coordinating between all of the different groups, as well as tracking our timeline. So we have LMS committees to support the project. We have one main overarching steering committee, and we have 4 subcommittees. We have a pedagogy and practice subcommittee, a technical, a training, and a communications group. And we'll be going into a little bit more information about each of their charges in our upcoming slides. We have bi-weekly and weekly meetings based on each of the respective committees and subcommittees with a Microsoft Teams workspace that allows us to review who's in and what's happening each day and week. Our project management team has also been very influential in our DLE debrief sessions and making sure that we have chairs ready and informed between all of the different committees. So they've been working with us on a number of different levels, again, to stay on track and stay organized. And we can go to the next.
I was just going to jump in and say that one of the other aspects that was under project management was it's still actually ongoing, is an extensive business process mapping project that has to do with course creation, because you have essentially 4 different sets of business rules that have to be applied to from the different areas, undergrad and graduate in nursing. There's actually 2 in undergrad. So we're using that business process mapping to work out the new course creation process, basically, and how it's going to be automated for Brightspace. And that's moving forward now.
All right, so next up is our communications committee, which I was one of the co-chairs for. And our charge was to prepare communication plan and design messaging about the LMS conversion process to distribute to the college community, which sounds really simple and straightforward at first glance, but ended up being quite a expanded project. We have 13 members that made up 3 working groups. We had bi-weekly meetings for the overarching committee, but we actually had weekly meetings for the working groups to maintain consistent communications being updated. Our co-chairs established lines of communication with other subcommittees to fit their needs, because we kind of discovered that each subcommittee needed a different level of support for how things got communicated out. In order for us to effectively explain all of the changes that were happening to the college community. So we actually attended the weekly technical meetings. We set check-ins with training and support to review what was happening on a weekly basis. And we also scheduled meetings as needed with pedagogy and practice, particularly given that a lot of our subcommittees were overlapping times. This ended up being our resolution to that. Our working groups, we had a divide and conquer mentality of what were our 3 main buckets of communication. So we had a communication plan group that developed the initial plan, focusing on the different types of communications that we sent out. Our communication plan really looked at different areas of what types of communications and therefore who would need to be contacted based on the category. We would draft and review communications before sending through what's called a RACI chart. So we had a responsible, an approval, a consultation, and an informed category for who needed to be informed of what communications were going out and when, particularly because our DLE email would represent the entire committee. We found that this RACI chart was really beneficial for facilitating the warnings and the consultation so that every department got their fair share for their category or their bucket. And all communications always were sent to all the co-chairs of all the subcommittees to make sure that they were aware of what was being sent on their behalf in the different groups. We have monthly briefings that are executive level overviews of the project. The briefings, we had a very specific structure for of 30 minutes, 10 minutes for news, 20 minutes for Q&A. This allowed for the college community to be aware of what was happening and when, but we did not allow for any filler. We really wanted to make it feel essential that this was your chance to come and ask questions so you knew what was happening in the next month. And we have yet to have a briefing of under 80 participants. So these are very well attended. And we have a group chat of stakeholders that we kind of keep on the side during these briefings to kind of feed answers to the presenters. So we have two set kind of presenters who are our broadcasters giving the message of the day, just so that way we don't have a bunch of different voices that would confuse or distract the audience. So we kind of keep a side messaging group during the briefings to make sure that our presenters are supported during Q&A. We also have an FAQ group that set a cycle for reviewing questions, seeking answers as needed. A lot of these questions, especially as we got later and deeper into the project, we kind of knew the answers because of the communications we were writing. But anytime a question came up, the FAQ group reached out to the appropriate committee to get the answer if we didn't have it already documented somewhere. And we published all of them on the college project site that I am about to discuss further on the next slide. So our DLE implementation site. My top of the slide has a quote that I would say very kind of guided a lot of our questions during our committee meetings was, assume everyone is learning a new language together. What do we need to include? Because a lot of any implementation in any new platform is translating the project for everyone. So some key sections to include, we had status updates about what were emerging and urgent issues and directing people to resources to solve those problems. We had a timeline that we broke down by stakeholder groups. So each school of the college that we had, they had their own separate timeline to guide them based on their use cases. We had a news and announcement section. Any email that we sent was also posted in our news and announcement section for record keeping, just so that way if an email got lost or deleted, we had it kind of archived in the news section. We had an events page, a project glossary, which again, if we're all learning a new language together, you need a dictionary, and this was our dictionary. Had the FAQ page. We created a form for anonymous submissions. So if people were shy or nervous about having their name attached to a question, they didn't have to attach their name to that question, which was very important, especially as we got later in the project. We have a separate student information page that we did keep separate from the employees. So the students had their hub of knowledge that we could direct faculty to inform the students of separately. And we also had a link to our project email account. So our communication team managed our DLE@esc.edu email and would direct questions from there to route them. So we had a bit of a switchboard going on. That was very helpful, at least for our implementation site. And that is the communication team. Woo.
We also had a technical committee. Now the charge was to make recommendations on technical issues. That doesn't really, it's kind of an underwhelming charge in that really the technical committee was involved in everything having to do with Brightspace that would fall under technical, whether it was from course creation, making decisions about roles, and troubleshooting things. It's still in existence. We're still using it. And it really gets into everything having to do with Brightspace, all aspects. So technical makes it sound a little bit like it's removed from other aspects of the interactions. We look at email, everything that's going on in there. It meets weekly. One thing I would say about that is that it's kind of funny because it says bi-weekly technical meeting on the invite. We fairly quickly determined that the technical committee had to meet weekly. There are a lot of spin-off meetings from the technical meeting as well, where different groups get together outside of the weekly meeting and discuss more focused issues. And we also discovered that we needed flexibility with membership, and we quickly brought in a variety of different people. From the original membership was more ITS, information technology services focused, and we started to bring in instructional designers, and then of course we brought in the communication committee, and we brought in other people from instructional design as well. So that membership has expanded quite a bit. And it was necessary for the kind of work that we had to do. We had questions, and we needed different opinions. So it's a key committee that's been working all along, really since the start. One of the first committees to meet.
Next is pedagogy and practice. And Lindsay and Mark, I think, used past terms for some of these committees and co-chairs, but we're still meeting, we're still co-chairs, it's still going on for I don't know how much longer, but we're still working on everything. So pedagogy and practice is a wonderful committee that consists of a variety of people. We have faculty from grad, undergrad, nursing, from all the areas, and faculty teaching different type of courses, master course, independent study, virtual study groups. So we get this variety of perspectives. And we also have people who serve on governance groups. So they bring that point of view and make sure that we don't make any changes or look at things that require governance involvement or change of policies. We have academic support representation in that committee. We have a person from the registrar's office. So I think, yeah, we've covered all the aspects. So when we discuss things, we'll look at like every angle, and the topics we looked at, they're really interesting, some of them, and we've implemented things, we've improved things for the whole college. One of the examples is the syllabus framework, which is pretty much just creating one true consistent resource for students, where syllabus looks the same regardless of the course that students take from SUNY Empire. They receive the most updated resources and consistent language. They know where to find things. We've implemented that in all master courses, and we've included that as a resource, that document as resource in all the other courses. We've looked for use cases for intelligent agents. We've also looked at the training that may need to be added, or resources for Brightspace, and then we communicate that information to the training committee, or we work with communications committee if we thought that something needed a bit more clarification. And we have other projects that are going on right now that we're working on, such as course consistency, creating a template for the whole college based on evidence-based practices. We're partnered with our CMLAI group. It's a faculty professional development group that's been meeting all along on discussing pedagogy and a variety of other practices. And we've partnered with them to develop sessions that are more targeted towards Brightspace and changes of the LMS, that whole house concept, because a lot of things are changing. If we have any time left, we'll provide a few more examples, but that committee, the best part too is that we found it to be so valuable that it's going to continue on beyond this LMS conversion project. And we can move to the steering committee, to Mark.
Right. So the steering committee really, it does set the agenda and priorities for the subcommittees, but it's really, the communication goes both ways. So some things may come down from the steering committee to a particular subcommittee, but very often the subcommittee is bringing something back up to the steering committee and wants an opinion on how to proceed, or wants a recommendation on how to proceed. There's 20 members. It consists of the co-chairs from the committees. Project management is deeply involved in that. They really help to run those meetings and keep us on track in those meetings. There's faculty representatives, and there's also representatives maybe having dual roles where they may be a faculty, but they're also representing governance. And we meet every other week. And often you'll be sitting in a committee and we'll say, okay, we're going to take that up to steering next week. It's the kind of communication that we have between the various committees and the steering committee. It's very open and very fluid.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. So I am going over the training and support subcommittee. The charge of this committee was to develop outcomes and goals in a comprehensive training plan for faculty, staff, and students in conjunction with educational technologies. I think the charge has been ever changing since we started. I mean, we always get input from other groups as to what training is needed and kind of go from there. We had a starting point and things kind of changed and progressed as we went as far as what types of training we needed as new tools developed in Brightspace. And as we started to learn what people seem to struggle with a little more as opposed to what they immediately felt comfortable with. And the structure of the subcommittee was 16 members. We had myself and John Nettleton were co-chairs of this subcommittee. We would meet weekly with the entire group. And then the co-chairs and the LMS communication co-chair, Lindsay, would meet weekly to share any information to make sure that we're getting any further training needs that have come out of other meetings, as well as vice versa, as if communication is getting all the information that may need to be communicated that's coming out of our training sessions. The co-chairs and communication has been the liaison to meet weekly and debrief and plan the agenda for the following weeks. We are currently just starting this week. We are going from weekly to bi-weekly. Approximately, I think we've been weekly for, I think around 8 months now. So we are going to be continuing the subcommittee through at least getting into the spring term so that we can use what we've learned to benefit the beginning of the spring term as well. But until then, we're tentatively going to be switching to bi-weekly at this point. And then this slide is more specific to not only the IT service desk. I know a lot of other schools, some use their own service desk for the LMS, and others utilize the SUNY help desk. So this is not only specific to necessarily the service desk, but also some of the techniques or tactics we've used for training can be utilized for any department that might have a call center type situation where there always has to be agents available to answer phones or chats or whatever it may be, which sometimes creates a challenge when trying to get everyone trained at the same time and on the same page with all the trainings as they become available. So one of the things we did was to utilize the recorded trainings as soon as SUNY CPD started getting their recorded trainings out before we had our own SUNY Empire specific trainings built up. What we would do is actually schedule each technician for, we would stagger hours or hour and a half, however long the trainings may have been. And they would have scheduled times where they could get out of the queue so that they can 100% focus on the training at hand without trying to have to multitask too much, since it was so new to everyone. And prior to us starting to develop our own trainings, when Brightspace was first rolling out, we would do that each week. So each week we would have a scheduled recording, and we would plan each agent to have time during that week to go over the first topic, and then the second week we would do the second, so on and so forth. So everyone had a chance to focus on the training and make sure that we were all on the same page. Another thing that we're very lucky is our Empire online team, digital learning environments team are very open and very willing and enthusiastic to join our weekly team meetings. We have a weekly 1-hour meeting that the service desk meets each week, and they would alternate spending some time with us at each meeting, whether it's a Q&A of things that came up, maybe something they just found something isn't working exactly the way they thought. So they would give us that heads up so we knew in advance what was going on if our caller reported anything. So it really broke down a lot of the silos that we've had between all those groups. And we would like to continue this long after Brightspace, because it has been just so helpful for everyone. We also alternated opportunities to go in through the live trainings to allow all agents an opportunity to participate. And we did create a Brightspace specific channel through Teams as well, just so we could focus that channel specifically on Brightspace, since there are still so many other things going on with Brightspace being so in the forefront. We didn't want the other agents to have to dig for new material, so they just had that one-stop place to go for any questions, issues coming up, so that they could get that information right away.
So that's me again. Committees and committees everywhere. As if we didn't have enough committees, we created more subcommittees, but that helped us to create more focused projects and get things done quicker. One of them, as I mentioned, syllabus framework. We had a variety of people and pull people from other departments to work on that project, like Office of Disabilities, to provide their statement for the syllabus and proper links and academic support and so on. Wallace had a subgroup that worked on creating course menus and layout. It was actually a wonderful opportunity to look at what we had in Moodle before and to re-envision it, to look at it from students' point of view and completely rethink what needs to be more upfront, what can be added or removed. We've worked on customizing navigation bar, determine all the links and stuff that goes on the main dashboard page and inside of every course, and it's consistent throughout the whole SUNY Empire, regardless if students enrolled in grad, undergrad, nursing, etc. And I'll let Jen talk about the DLE office hours subgroup and project.
Sure, yeah, and we just had a subgroup, so we provided office hours at the beginning of the term. It was staffed by people from our Empire Online, which includes our instructional designers and educational technologists. We had our service desk, and then we also had student success. And so we provided office hours to our faculty and adjuncts, and then our staff, and they were covered by all three of those areas. But the specific ones that were just for student office hours, we also included our student success in there. We provided these office hours at the beginning of the term. We did extend it a little bit just to kind of work out some kinks of people that may have received late access. We also have office hours going to be starting in December for grading and then in the spring term.
So more specifically on what kind of improvements in processes we've done at the instructional design level. We had to develop the whole project management for managing the conversion process, knowing what are we converting, who is getting assigned to what, and initially we're hoping to get the peer review process as well, because as you know, once you look at 10 courses in one day, your eyes just get crossed and you can miss things. But because of the timeline, we had to remove peer review at that point, and we actually came up with another idea, tier 2 group. So if something required more work, let's say if the course utilized wikis or some other tools that are not implemented in Brightspace, or quiz was completely messed up, we handed off that project to a tier 2 group that worked with faculty more directly and spent more time on addressing issues. We've developed a conversion checklist to help our team. So when they looked at the course, they could check all the items that we knew had to be addressed, including checking all the hyperlinks, quiz settings and so on. And we can share that with you. I don't know if you have the link, but more than happy. And we changed it as we worked on this process. All of this been documented, assigned in Airtable. So we had really slick project management tool and process established, and we have a wonderful project coordinator to help with that. And throughout this process, so we've addressed issues that were created because of the conversion process, but we also paid attention to any other issues that course might have had. If we notice broken links or any other issues, if it's a master course, we fix them. If it's something else, if it's a faculty-owned course and we need their permission, we noted that in the conversion checklist, and each course included that hidden section, I think we call it conversion notes, for them to review and fix things, or they can just get in touch with us even at this point, and we will jump in and help them. We've communicated as a team. We've established weekly meetings. We call them Brightspace play group. They weren't required initially, now they're required, and we're actually going to keep them going forward because it's a wonderful opportunity for our team to discuss things not just related to Brightspace, but anything related to course design, pedagogy, and things we can improve going forward. We use Microsoft Teams for sharing information. We create an FAQ. It's a bulletin tool to share all the snippets about Brightspace, and there are a lot of them, like what you can delete, not delete, how to do these things this way, or HTML, gazillions of things, and it keeps growing weekly, at least. And our team too, as instructional designers, we have instructional technologists, educational technologists. We spend a lot of time on developing training resources and work collaboratively. So overall, just for our Empire Online team, this conversion process made a lot of changes in our processes. We see a lot of improvements, better collaboration, fewer silos. We work much more with our ITS department, with our communication committees. We got a lot of feedback from the DLE office hours directly from students and faculty, and then took it back and implemented in course design. And I'm trying to see 12:31. We probably should keep moving. We can go back to any specifics later on.
And we'll share an Excel spreadsheet that we use for the office hours for signups, so you can see that. We also just use the college counter, so we put training dates on there, as well as the DLE briefings. In regards, we also presented at all college presentation as well as a fall academic. And then we also did something at our student academic conference, so we were able to present to both staff and students in regards to the project. We presented at the SUNY CPD Fireside Chat. In addition, we also have developed knowledge base articles, and basically what they are is they're articles that provide maybe some step-by-step directions on various items within Brightspace. And we're actually in the process right now of creating videos to kind of supplement some of those knowledge base articles so people can see it as they're also maybe even reading the directions. And then we obviously utilize the SUNY CPD trainings. We provided sandboxes to our staff that have accounts within Brightspace. And then lastly, just emails were sent out in regards to status updates as well as training times, and that came from the communication committee as well as the college.
So some lessons learned so far. Project managers, they are the glue of this process. Whether it is an official project management office, you want a project manager, you want somebody who's kind of involved and aware of what's happening with all your varying committees. Make sure for your committees, there is a diversity in each of your committees representing all angles of the college, including your college governance process. You want someone who is very well versed in policy and procedure. Requesting people to join when you recognize that there are gaps in your representation, as well as having co-chairs for the committees who are from different groups or divisions of the college. For the majority of our committees, we always had 2 different divisions kind of represented and reflected, whether that was our Office of Academic Affairs or our ITS or even our Office of Communications and Marketing. We have student representees that we realized that we should have invested more in, whether that was an internship or some other opportunity to allow student voice to be involved. In terms of communication, leverage your teams, have a single source of truth, whether that is a certain email or project page, so that you can share documents and files throughout the committee. Have cross communication across your subcommittees is crucial. We cannot be siloed in order to ensure that everyone is aware of all the different pieces of our project. And there is no such thing as over communication, especially with our faculty. So I believe Nichole has next slide.
We just had some additional lessons learned. Is that the side you're referring to? Things out of our control in regards to obviously like global IDs, determination of cohorts when that came out. Some other was just the preview week, which I briefly explained before, and then student and adjunct test accounts.
And then as we
Just to show that it wasn't as perfect and rosy as we've discussed here, we had our moments. Nichole, let you go.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of opportunities for our colleagues to build working relationships with one another. And one of the best ways we did that is through our Teams chat. And so you got to find humor in the frustration. So these were just some of our like outtakes, if you will, from different Teams chats and meetings, especially for teammates with either children, like mine are running around sick in the house, or dog, pets. Everything from, my favorite was that it's fine. Everything is going crazy, but it's fine. We got to smile, grin and bear it, and find ways to make solutions happen and make everything as smooth as possible, especially for our faculty and students, to make sure that they are comfortable with our new environment. As we move forward.
Just so go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, moving forward, we want to get our students' feedback moving forward to see if there's any other opportunities that we can do to further assist them. And then we're working on finding areas for like some learning management committees are going to be decommissioned and put into, and some are going to continue on where appropriate. So especially like our pedagogy and practice, as Alina mentioned, there are a lot of great subcommittees and projects that came from that. So that committee and group is going to continue. We're also taking the opportunity to review existing processes and systems, as well as taking this opportunity to find ways to reinvent and develop faculty development programs to enhance their teaching practices within our new digital learning environment. And so here are some of the resources we touched on in the chat. I'm going to share our conversion checklist. And we also, I know Jen mentioned sharing our Excel spreadsheet with the office hours that we use for signups. And then we have links to our website for the Empire DLE website.
So at this time, if anybody has any questions, I don't know if any came through the chat yet or not.
This cracks me up, this image, fragile cohort.
Oh. Yes, our moving truck.
Before we answer questions, I just wanted to say one thing. I want to circle back to what Lindsay said about the project management team. They carry glue in one hand. That's true. We can rely on them to keep everything together. They also carry a big stick in the other hand, and they keep us in line in the meetings, and they keep things moving forward. And I think it's really important that your project management office be able to do that. Otherwise, you could get bogged down.
So is anybody checking the chat? I mean, you're going to see my
keep an eye.
Okay.
So far, our memes have been appreciated. So please, if anyone has questions.
Because the outcome is we're almost there. We almost built the house, and we're all, as you can see, we're happy, smiling. We're a better team at the end.
For sure.
And we're definitely going to be looking into changing things and improving things and continue to work together.
That's terrific. It sounds like you've had some really, good experiences. You've had the highs and the lows together, which is really, that moving analogy was great. I absolutely love that. I do see people on in this webinar from cohort one additional campuses and then some other cohorts too. I'm just wondering if anyone had similar experiences that they wanted to share, or different, or had questions because you're maybe going soon through this process. So there's one here in the chat from Aline.
Yes.
How
See
many
from
people
Arlene.
total? Yeah, were involved.
Elaine's question was, how many people total across the committees were involved? And when was your go live date? Was it this fall of 22, or what were some initial reactions from the users? So in terms of people across the committees, I recently made a
Great.
giant list of all of our committees, and we had over in the end, over 50 people who were involved across the committees. We did have some people who were involved in multiple committees, which is why that number might sound low to some and really high for others. Because I think I ended up on 3 committees by the end of this. So we have about 50 overall. Our go live date was for this fall in cohort 1. So September 6th was the big day of students in classes on Brightspace. And I think
There was the preview date, and
Yeah.
our preview is 7 days a week.
Mhm.
And reactions, I think we can say from DLE office hours, we've had pretty good attendance, and I would say it's a lot of, mixed reactions for students. Some love the new interface, love new experience, some were frustrated. But I would say this with just one here or there. Faculty too. Overall, any change is difficult. The best thing that I've heard is people who've been with our college for a long time and they've gone through 3 conversions, and these people indicating that this being so far the smoothest one. Not that we're planning any other ones anytime soon, but
Oh.
but we're still learning how to use. Every day we learn something new, and that's, I think, this openness and being able to react and adjust is really helpful, and that communication that Lindsay described is a key point too.
Yeah, communication was a big hurdle very early on in the process of kind of once we cracked that open of how to get all the stakeholders involved and also make people feel comfortable collaborating. That once we figured that out, that kind of helped us spread our wings to a lot of different areas. So it's an important place to think about who you're having involved and how you're going to involve the communication team. Because I worked quite extensively with project management very early on to not only coordinate my group, but also to figure out how we could get involved with other groups to break the silos.
And we can also, I think there may be a little bit of a hiccup with trying to share files within the presentation. So if we can't do that, we can reach out to you if you're interested, and you can email any one of us and we can send those out, the office hours, the conversion checklist, the URL for the website, or email DLE. There we go. It is still being monitored.
It's being monitored. Someone will get back to you. It may not be this afternoon. It depends on who we have to reach out to get the file, but we can certainly follow up with that.
And I think we mentioned that, but we used Airtable for project management. We still use it heavily, but there are other tools like Teams has free project management. I forgot the name of it, but there are other options if you need just for tracking and stuff that are available, and it helped us a lot to keep organized and not to drive our team crazy with assignments and overloading them.
All right. Well, I think we're at time, and I wanted to leave a minute or two for Erin to.
Oh, thank you. I mean, you're perfectly at time. That hasn't happened yet. So that's amazing. So I just want to thank you all, the whole team here, for being with us today and for sharing. You've done such a great job, and you've learned a lot, but the sharing, and especially like your part about the reach across the community, because that's really how we learn, right? And so it's really helpful for others who are going through this process to learn about the moving pains, but also to know that you can come out on the other side and it's okay. So for those of you that are here in attendance, I have slides and recordings of all the sessions this week. Those will be made available on our website. But in addition to our offerings, I encourage you to take a look at the USDLA website. They sponsor National Distance Learning Week, and they have a whole lineup of other presentations from around the country. And they do feature the SUNY sessions there as well, which is really nice, and we appreciate that. So I am going to leave this session open because we have our last one at 1 o'clock. So if anyone is intending to attend that session, I will leave this room open. You can stay right here for the next few minutes. Otherwise, we are all set. So thank you very much.